So we're talking about Pocha here, which is a very interesting film. What I would like to know is where the original idea came from.
Sure. My creative partner on the project, Michael Dwyer, lives part-time in Mexico. And so he was handling some paperwork related to his family's home, and he witnessed a deportation one night. And him and I had been working together on another project, and he had sort of shared some of the experience with me, and I immediately envisioned a story through a young woman's perspective. You know, someone who was sort of strong, adaptable, and determined not to be a victim. And so we developed the story together, and then I wrote the script, and then we collaborated on the directing, and he did the cinematography.
Let me correct you on that. You're saying he witnessed a deportation in Mexico?
He did. He was on the Mexico side. He was handling some paperwork related to his visa, and he was there witnessing a deportation, and he saw a group of young men, you know, being deported, and he ended up spending some time with them, and a lot of them were, you know, very American, and they spoke little or no Spanish. They were, you know, sort of in a foreign homeland, and they didn't really have a plan of what was to happen next. And so he tried to provide some help to someone because he was familiar with the area, and he sort of had spent a lot of time there. And so that he recounted that story to me, and then we started working on the story together.
Okay. Veronica, when did you were brought on to the project, and why were you attracted to this?
Well, a good friend of mine, Jesse Garcia, is also an actor in the film and was the executive producer. He contacted me and told me about it and asked me to come and audition. And so I did, and I got along really well with the team. And so that's kind of how I got introduced to everybody. And when I read the script, it blew me away. I thought it was a beautiful script. It was gripping, it was different, raw and honest, and very gritty. And at the time, I was really looking for a challenge and something exciting to do for my next project, and I thought this was a great choice.
I'm gonna use the microphone because the lobby seems to be pretty loud. Anyways, so we just basically noticed that you took on this project. Could you talk about that? This is your first feature film.
Yes, this is my first feature film, my first lead role, and I was telling everybody on Facebook today that I would not have chosen any other project to be my first feature film. I was going through a bit of a dry spell. I hadn't booked anything for a while when I had found out about this, and so it was very exciting for me, and it was finally a chance for me to show everyone my craft, what I've been working on for so long. This was my chance to show the world, and so it was very humbling, I was blessed, and to be with such an amazing team, meeting Michael and Kate and everybody on the crew and the cast. I couldn't have been more lucky. I couldn't have had a better team. So let's see. I don't know. I'm just super excited about this, and I'm so excited that it's going to the LA Film Festival, and I just can't believe it. I'm very blessed.
Now, were there any challenges filming in Mexico? I mean, we're talking about, you know, a low-budget type of indie film, and you're on the other side, obviously.
We had a wonderful time filming in Mexico. We had the support of the community of La Misión, and we had a wonderful team of local crew, and in addition to the people we brought with us from Los Angeles. So our experience there was phenomenal. Everybody was really supportive of the story, and there were so many wonderful locations which make the film look so great via Michael's cinematography. So we certainly had some challenges around, you know, production in terms of, you know, the film for an indie film has a lot of action and, you know, shooting at night and all of that. I mean, we did also have to recreate the border, which mostly we did in parking lots. And then eventually we also shot at the border.
Whose ranch was that? Was that your place?
No, that was the Crossway Ranch where we shot the house, and then a few other ranches around on the mesa of La Mission.
I was gonna guess Tijuana, but I guess not.
Northern Baja.
Yeah. Now, you do speak Spanish, right?
I do speak some Spanish, but I am not fluent.
So you're nearly a Pocha?
Yes, actually. No, I could really relate to Claudia in that aspect.
Now, did you do any type of research talking to undocumented immigrants or anybody about if they had these type of experiences being deported or trying to come over here and trying to relate?
I did a little bit of research on it, yes, but mostly I went to Kate because I know that she did the most research and she's the one that wrote the character. So she really helped with being insightful and such.
Well, it looks like it bounced to you then. So did you do any research in terms of like speaking to certain types of people?
Sure. Yeah, we did a lot of research. My partner on the project, Michael, like as I said, had done a fair amount of in-person research. When we were writing the script, we spent a lot of time in Mexico, certainly location scouting, but also talking to people, working with the translator, figuring out sort of, visiting checkpoints and spending a lot of time putting in the work to sort of create it authentically and bring it to light in a real way. Yeah.
Now, this film isn't just about an undocumented immigrant on the Mexico side. I was quite surprised. There's quite a few action sequences throughout this entire film. Talk about the illicit type of business that you chose to introduce into this film.
Sure. Well, for us, the character of Claudia is very much an American. She has sort of been raised at a time where greed and materialism have reached epic heights. So for us, she was sort of the embodiment of the darker side of the American dream. And for, a person of, limited means, we wanted to sort of show someone who was sort of taking the easy route to try to get wealth, acquire material things that they were interested in, and sort of live a lifestyle that's something that they couldn't afford. And certainly credit cards, fraud, which is sort of her initial activity that gets her deported, was sort of a little bit symbolic, we think, of sort of what's gone wrong in America today. So part of that was a symbolic choice, and part of it was also, that we could really relate to someone who really just wants to be able to have, the latest and greatest things.
Veronica, your character, I don't want to say is technically a good person, but I don't know if you realize how many laws she has broken in the United States and in Mexico. I mean, you have such a complex character. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, it was challenging. It was challenging to fully understand her and understand her actions and her thought patterns. I don't know. It was difficult at times, but I just had to continue talking to Kate and Michael, and I would journal about it. And as an actor, what I try to do is really become one with the character when the camera's rolling. And in order to do that, you truly have to understand and not judge the character. So yeah, it was challenging. But it was an amazing experience because I was able to gain so much perspective from it.
And you gain quite a few skills of mending fences and riding horses, right?
Yes, actually, I learned how to ride a horse on the beaches of Baja. It was amazing. It was incredibly beautiful. And I've always wanted to learn how to ride a horse. And I was just going. So it was exciting, very exciting. And everybody, I remember when I had finally learned how to, I can't even think of the term, but sprint, just go as fast as possible. And everybody in the beach house was watching, and they started applauding for me, and it was an amazing experience. So I am so privileged to be able to have been able to do that.
Well, here's a question for both of you. Obviously, you all both have different answers. What was the greatest challenge or difficulty on the production? Who wants to start?
I'll start with this.
Okay.
Well, for us, one of the biggest challenges really centered around scheduling. So much of the film happens at night, and so for a variety of factors, we were often shooting reverse splits, which sometimes it was like 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. or very odd hours, and it took a serious physical and emotional toll on the crew. So we were very grateful for everyone to hang in there with us through all those long nights on the Mesa and to really help us, deliver a high quality film.
And what about for you, Veronica? What was your greatest challenge? You're not from the production side, but you're from the acting side.
Yes, well, I can also agree with her with the scheduling. It was difficult. I mean, there were very, very long hours and most night exterior. And it was very cold, very cold. But I think one of the biggest challenges for me was trying to disconnect from Claudia when the camera wasn't rolling and when we were, supposed to relax and take the time off whenever we did have the time off. And it was hard. It was hard because it was very emotionally demanding, and you can see that she's going through some very traumatizing events throughout the whole film. So that was, I think, my biggest challenge was decompressing. But I was able to because it was so beautiful in Baja where we were staying. There was the beach. I just could walk out the back door and walk onto the beach and go into the water, and I would dance, and that's kind of how I solved those problems.
The one thing I was actually surprised was the term Pocha. I mean, myself not being Hispanic or Latino, but I have a best friend and former roommate she's an undocumented immigrant herself, but she does speak Spanish. But in one hand, she speaks Spanish, but she gets criticized for her Spanish because she's been living on this side of the United States since she was 7 years old, and she didn't know that she was undocumented until she turned 18. Okay, but anyways, tell me about this term Pocha and how it turns out to be sort of like a double standard, not from from us Americans, but from Mexicans themselves.
Sure.
To look down upon their own type of people.
Sure. It's definitely one of the things we like about the word is that it means different things to different people. Certainly for our purposes, we define it as sort of an Americanized Mexican who speaks little or no Spanish. But it's a term that's been used for a very long time as an insult to some extent, a slang word to sort of describe someone who's not a real Mexican but is born in Mexico or of Mexican descent but has no real relation to the culture. And so for us, the whole movie really is situated on sort of being between two cultures, and we felt that word was a powerful way to get into the story and to attract people to understanding the characters.
For you, Veronica, could you actually relate to any of this kind of stuff from the movie, whether it is the term or characters or anybody in real life?
Yes, actually, I myself have issues with identity, with culture, because I'm Mexican and my father's from Mexico, but I was born and raised here, and I don't know much family from his side. So it was kind of bringing to light all of those feelings that I hadn't really thought of before, and it really actually inspired me to go back to Mexico. After we finished filming, I went back to Guerrero to learn Spanish. I went to a school called CEPE, and it was beautiful. I went out there for 2 months, and I just wanted to understand better my roots and the language and be closer to my father. So yes, it was able to relate.
And what was the most important Mexican thing that you learned?
The people are so generous and kind. That culture. I think what I got most out of it was the understanding of the culture, and very valuable, very rich. So.
Terrific. And the movie has premiered already once during the LA Film Festival. How was the reaction? And how was your reaction towards their reaction?
Go first.
Well, a lot of people were just surprised to find out that it was my first time seeing the film as well. I had chose to hold off because I wanted to get the full experience, and I just wanted to be a part of it with everyone. I loved it. And I was stunned. And the reaction, I had gotten up to go to the restroom right after the film had ended, and people started clapping, and I was wondering, what are they clapping about? And my parents were like, they're clapping for you. So it was overwhelming. The reaction from the audience was overwhelming. I was kind of in a bit of a daze after, so during the Q&A I was just kind of, struggling a little bit, but no, it was incredibly, I don't know, it was just very overwhelming. Beautiful, very beautiful.
Yeah, it was really quite a thrill to premiere my first feature in front of a sold-out audience. It was unbelievable to sort of feel the tension in the room and see the reactions to some of the more dramatic scenes, or the scenes we can't get into because we'll give the movie away. But we were overjoyed by how well the film was received by the audience, by the people we spoke to, by just how affected people were by it. We were really thrilled to be able to share it at the LA Film Festival, and we're really excited to find a wide audience for the film. We think there are people living all over the world that are living between cultures, so we think it's going to be an interesting experience to share the film with audiences that speak English, audiences that speak Spanish, and audiences that just understand what it's like to be living between two different cultures. And we really think the film asks some tough questions about what it means to be American in 2015, and sort of forces people to reflect on some of the darker sides of the American dream.
Wow, terrific. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of firsts for both of you.
Yes.
So tell me, since this is your first acting gig and this is your first feature film, would you ladies like to do it again?
I keep telling everyone I would do it again in an instant. I would love to. Pocha too. We keep joking about that.
Yeah, we've been joking about the sequel. But I will say, we worked so long and hard on the film, and finally you get to premiere the film, and it's such a rush. You sort of, I feel like sort of like having a baby. All of a sudden you forget how hard it was, and you think, let's have another. So we definitely sort of said that we hope that we get the opportunity to keep making films.
Terrific. And then let me just wrap it up with, could you ladies talk about your upcoming projects? Obviously, it sounds like you do want to do all of this all over again.
Well, actually, I do. I want to continue pursuing acting, and I'm hoping that plenty of opportunities will be coming my way in the future. But currently, I am trying to focus in on the music. I'm trying to focus on my music because for the next 4 weeks, I'll be preparing for an audition for The Voice. I was contacted by the talent producer, and they invited me to come in and audition. So I'm going to be practicing and rehearsing with a 5-time Grammy winner, and I'm going to be working on my EP. So that's what I'll be focusing on for now.
I will be directing a script that I wrote in 2016 called The Murphys, which tells the story of a young woman, an expatriate from Dublin, who's been spending the last 10 years living in Utah with her husband, who's a Mormon, and she returns home to Dublin to reunite with her hilarious dysfunctional family. So it is a comedy set in Dublin.
And for a moment there, I thought it was like a Canadian deported back to Canada or something. Well, anyways, thank you very much, ladies, and I want to wish you good luck on the project, and thank you for this interview.
Thank
you very much
Thank you.
for having us.
Thank you.